Hi there, Stephanie Stitches here. Welcome to my channel where together we sew. If you're brand new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and ring the bell for notifications so you'll know when I post up videos like this one or when I go live. And if you're returning, thank you so much for coming back. I love seeing all of you here and your comments down below. So today begins the new Fort Worth Fabric Studio Mystery Sew Along Frozen Memories. I'm really excited for this one. I believe this is my 5th sew along with Fort Worth Fabric Studio. So thank you to Jody and crew for having me again. I really enjoy these quilts. They always go together so nicely and they're very well coordinated. So I love doing them. As you can see, I actually have a past Fort Worth Fabric Studio Mystery Sew Along on the wall behind me. That one was Homemade Holiday from last year's Christmas, or 2021. And that's one of my favorite Christmas quilts. So I thought I would put it up there behind me so you guys could take a look, and it is still available on their website if you're interested. Anyway, enough about that one. Let's move on to Frozen Memories. Today is December 19th. This is the first day, and we are gonna meet every Monday to sew up parts of this quilt, and then we'll finish on Monday, January 16th. So today is all your cutting, and we're gonna do block number 1. Now, I'm not going to cut along with you guys and let you cut on your own, but we'll sew together. So let's get started on the sewing. So I did want to mention a couple things really quickly. Make sure when you grab this week's patterns that you not only download block 1, but you also download the fabric requirements, which is another page, plus this cutting guide. This cutting guide is going to show you how to cut your background fabric, and make sure you follow this so you have enough background fabric. And on the cutting guide, for most of the fabrics, there's multiple pieces that you need to cut, and some of them say like first cut strip, you know, from fabric, and I'm just making up a number, but fabric B or C, and cut 5.5 inch with the fabric strips first before you make any of the other cuts. Make sure you follow those directions. You don't want to miscut and run out of fabric, especially for those bigger pieces. So that's one recommendation I have for you. And the downloads, the link to the downloads will always be found in the description box of my video each and every week. They'll take you right to Fort Worth Fabric Studios site where you can find the patterns. All you have to do is scroll down the page and find the week that we're on and download that PDF. All right, so let's get started. The first block that we're going to make is the poinsettia block, and we're going to make 4 of these. I'm going to do 1 with you and let you do 3 on your own. And the most important thing, or the biggest part of this one, it's not a difficult block, but there are a lot of flying geese. So I'm going to go over the flying geese with you because I've had some people tell me lately that they have a lot of trouble with flying geese, and they can be troubling, especially if you're brand new to quilting, which I know there's a lot of new quilters out there, which is amazing. So I'll give you a few pointers on that. So the first thing we want to do is grab our 2, well, there's not 2, there's more than 2, but per rectangle, you're going to have 2 of the 2.5 inch fabric C blocks, and you're going to want to make the flying geese with the fabric B. So the first thing you're going to do is draw a line on the back from corner to corner. I don't typically draw lines. I have seam guide tape on my machine that gives me the perfect line, but I'm going to draw a line for you guys out there in case you don't use the diagonal seam tape. So draw a line corner to corner. That's the first thing you want to do. Now, this is just a little tip that I gave people on my channel when I gave out some tips on the best way to do flying geese for a beginner. So what you can do if you're brand new to quilting is line up your square, get it exactly where you want it, and then you could put a little dot of Elmer's glue or a glue stick or applique glue or whatever. This side is going to be the part of the flying geese that we cut off, so it's not going to matter that there's glue on there. You're not going to sew over it, so it's not going to mess up your sewing machine. but it'll just help that piece stay exactly where you want it to be. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my little ironing board and I'm just going to press that to dry that glue. Okay, and that only takes a couple of seconds. Elmer's glue is wonderful for lots of different type of crafting. You probably didn't think you could use it in quilting, but you can. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew on that line that I drew corner to corner. And so now you can take a rotary cutter and a ruler if you like and flip this up, but don't cut this piece off. Cut the piece off that's opposite of this. So towards the outside. I'm just going to grab my scissors and eyeball it and cut a 1/4 inch away from the sewn line. Now this is the piece that had the glue on it. So now we can just toss this and it doesn't affect your quilt at all. So now we're just going to press this wing of the flying geese up and away from the center. And you're going to want to trim and press before you put on your next side. So now we've got a piece that looks like this. And I'm going to do the same thing all over again. So we're going to draw a line. And when you're working on these at home, since we're going to be making 4 stars and each star has 4 flying geese, you may want to draw all the lines ahead of time before you even start and then chain piece everything to make the process go a little bit faster. So if you do each one, it might be kind of tedious. So I'm going to line that up exactly where I want it, and then I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and sew it. I'm not going to glue this one because I've made a lot of flying geese over the years, but that was just a tip for beginners because I have a lot of beginners tell me that they can't get their flying geese to come out just right, and that does help a little bit until you've been sewing for a long time and got those flying geese down pat. When I first started quilting, that was not my favorite thing to make either. Okay. So now I'm going to do the same thing I did before, and I'm going to trim away a 1/4 inch from the sewn line. And we're going to press. I always like to finger press it before I actually press it to make sure that the fabric is going the correct way. Okay. And now we've got our flying geese. So you're going to make 4 of those per block or 16 altogether for all 4 blocks. So I've made mine a little bit ahead of time just to save some time. If I did all of these with you guys, the video would be 100 years long. So after you've got all of your flying geese made and you've got your center square, you're going to want to take 2 of the flying geese per block and add your little white background squares to either side. Just like this. So we're going to sew these a 1/4 inch seam. So this is another good place where you can chain stitch. You can line them all up and do one side, cut them apart, and then do the other side. Somebody asked me recently what chain stitching means. It just means that you don't cut the thread in between. As you can see, my pieces are joined together there with a thread. So I'm just going to clip those apart. I'm going to press these, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Now, when you're making all of these at once, if you chain piece them, it's going to make your process go a lot faster. Okay, so now I'm going to add the white squares to the other side, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to chain piece them. Snip those apart. Then I'm going to press these just like I did the other side. This fabric is gorgeous. Sparkling in the light over here. I love it. Okay, so there are those pieces. I'm going to set those aside for just a minute, and I'm going to grab my center square. Let's see, how do I want this to go? And then I'm going to take the two flying geese that we didn't add background squares to and attach those one to either side of the center square. So just like that, to create the center row of the block. If this is your first time sewing along, I'd love to hear that down in the comments down below. Let me know if you've sewn along with the Fort Worth Fabric Studio quilt before, or this is your first one. And don't forget that if this is your first one, that Fort Worth Fabric Studio has a Facebook group for the Mystery Sew Along. I will have that link down below. If you're not a member of that, you can go in there and post pictures of your progress. You can get tips from fellow members, things like that. It's a great group to be a part of. Everybody's really, really nice. So check that out. It's fun to see everybody's progress there. And make some new friends along the way. Give that a press. I pressed the centers in. It's a little less bulky that way. And I pressed the other pieces out so they'll nest really well. Okay, so now all we have to do is add these guys to the center, and we've already got our block. So let's go ahead and do that. give this one a press, and then we'll add the other side. Now I do recommend, it gets very tempting not to cut all the fabric during the first week, because I know you just want to sew, because I feel the same way. But I do recommend that you cut all the fabric during the first week. If you want to cut the fabric for this week's blocks and get those done and then continue cutting, you could do that too. But I will tell you that if you cut everything all up front, each week becomes that much more enjoyable, because all you have to do then is sit down and sew when the patterns come out. So just a little tip there too. I've done it both ways, and it's definitely a lot more fun if you've got everything cut up front. Okay, I'm just going to add this last side now. Give that side a press. All right, and in about 12-15 minutes, we've got a finished block. Now, we did one together. You're gonna wanna make sure you make 4 before next week when we come back for block number 2. So that's a wrap on week 1. I've got all 4 of my blocks done. I chain pieced all the rest, and it took about 20 minutes to finish them all. The cutting took a little bit longer. So go ahead and get cutting and get your blocks done, and then we'll meet back here next week for week 2. Thank you all so much for sewing along with me, and if I don't see you before and you're somebody who celebrates Christmas, I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Take care and have a wonderful week. Bye!